Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Chapter 2 lecture on research methods in social psychology. And this chapter is all about how we gather evidence to understand human behavior and mental processes. So in this chapter, we're going to lay the groundwork for understanding psychological research. We'll start by exploring the fundamental goals and processes involved in conducting research. Then we'll highlight the various methods used to study human behavior, from rigorous experimental designs to insightful non-experimental designs. And finally, we'll emphasize the critical importance of ethical considerations in all research endeavors. Let's begin by establishing a strong foundation in the principles and processes that guide psychological research. So in this first section, we'll cover the fundamental goals of psychological research and the steps involved in conducting it. We'll also look at the importance of using the scientific method.
Recent studies show
A number of new studies show that
Many studies show
There are a bunch of studies that show
well, studies have shown
and studies show
recent
So we often hear the phrase that studies show or research show, and then a lot of times we just accept whatever follows as the gospel truth. We're bombarded with information every day, and it can be tough to sift through. That's where psychological research comes in. Unlike casual observations or opinions, psychological research is grounded in the scientific method. And this method is crucial for psychological research to produce reliable, bias-free knowledge. It emphasizes objectivity, confirmation of findings, self-correction, and control, thus distinguishing it from non-scientific methods and often those fall prey to biases. This helps us to confirm our findings and be open to correcting ourselves when we're wrong as responsible producers of knowledge. So overall, what guides social psychology research? Well, as researchers of social psychology, there are overarching questions that we're interested in. For instance, how are people influenced? What unseen strings pull people's thoughts, feelings, and actions? Why do people accept influence? And what makes a message stick? Conversely, what makes it fade? What variables increase or decrease the effectiveness of social influence? Why do we bend to social pressures, even when it clashes with our beliefs? Is the effect permanent or transitory? How long do persuasive appeals linger in the mind, shaping future choices and decisions? And do the same principles apply to everyone? How do cultural, personal, and situational factors orchestrate the nuances of influence? To address these questions, we employ the scientific method. And this process is crucial for social psychology because it helps to, one, avoid things like confirmation bias, stereotyping, hindsight bias, and anchoring bias, just to name a few. And this is done by following a systematic approach. It also allows us to challenge common sense by allowing researchers to test common sense notions, sometimes leading to surprising findings. It provides rigorous framework for studying and addressing things like socio-political issues, further emphasizes the importance of reliable and valid research findings. And finally, researchers explore course to document their methods and findings for review and replication. Now, why do we have to do research in the first place? If you take research methods, you might even ask that. Well, what we're hoping to achieve, well, sometimes we're driven by the pure curiosity, that insatiable desire to understand the world and the people in it. And other times we're motivated by a desire to make a difference and solve real-world problems and improve people's lives. So let's decipher the goals of scientific research. The first goal is to describe the actual phenomenon in which humans and animals behave in different situations. So by describing a problem, an issue, or behavior, psychologists can distinguish between normal and abnormal behavior, allowing them to gain a better understanding and a more accurate perspective of human and animal behavior, thoughts, and actions. Now, once a specific behavior has been described, psychologists then attempt to go beyond the obvious and explain why people act the way they do. Through a series of rigorous tests, scientific experiments, and observations, psychology expounds on the reason behind someone's actions. Explaining behavior provides answers to why people behave the way they do under different circumstances. Making predictions based on how people previously thought and acted is the third goal. By analyzing past observed behavior, psychological studies aim to predict and anticipate how certain behavior will appear again in the future. And this allows psychologists to form a pattern of behavior and better understand the underlying causes of people's actions. And various psychological studies about human behavior are used to influence, change, or control behavior using previously gathered data about human behavior. So now looking at the bottom three rings together, these describe what we call basic research. And basic research seeks to advance frontiers of knowledge by creating new theories or modifying existing ones. In conjunction with the influence step, they all make up applied research. Research methodology that creates practical solutions for specific problems, while basic research is an approach to research that seeks to expand knowledge in a field of study. Applied research is solution-driven, while basic research is knowledge-specific. And with applied research, the pros are that it has practical real-world value. However, results may relate only to a specific group studied, and there are limited control of testing conditions. But with basic research, there's a good control of testing conditions, and findings are significant and of value to society in general. Nonetheless, results may have limited direct application. And these two types of research aren't mutually exclusive. They often work hand in hand with basic research informing applied research and vice versa. Now we know why we do research, but how do we actually do it? I like to think of it sometimes a bit like baking a cake. You wouldn't just throw all the ingredients in a bowl and hope for the best, right? Or would you? I know my 16-year-old would. I digress. Ideally, you'd follow a recipe. Similarly, in research, we follow a series of steps that helps us stay organized, focused, and on track. And this is true whether you're conducting biomedical research, paleontology, weather science, and of course, our beloved social science. As social scientists, we use the scientific method to uncover lawful relationships among things. The research ideas can stem from various sources, including a daily news, personal experiences, and of course, existing studies. So we start with a question that's empirically answerable, not a question of opinion. And a thorough literature review is essential to identify a testable problem. From here, we construct the hypothesis, which is a testable prediction derived from theories, and is typically stated as an if-then statement. It guides the research design and the data collection process. Then it's time to conduct the investigation by experimentation or observation. And the study design must minimize error and lead to dependable generalizations. This involves careful planning to ensure the research question is addressed effectively. Now, data collection methods vary depending on the research design. Experimental methods and non-experimental methods have different processes. Then we analyze data using qualitative or statistical evaluation methods. When we talk about statistical methods, these are used to determine whether the hypothesis is supported or not. And this step is crucial for drawing valid conclusions from research data. Now it's time to understand the results and conclude whether the hypothesis was supported or refuted. And quite frankly, we have to revisit our hypothesis, and this could happen for several reasons. Maybe the data did not support the hypothesis, or new information or insights emerged, or the hypothesis was too broad or too narrow. From here, we'll share our findings, and researchers must share the results with the scientific community through things like presentations and publications, and this allows to ensure clarity and replicability of the study. Note that we cannot prove things true or untrue in the social sciences, as there will be no laws of human behavior. Those only exist in the natural sciences. Take a look at the Sprouts video. You can find the link below that discusses and animates the steps of the scientific method as we've just discussed. And as we wrap up section 1, we build a solid foundation for understanding research and psychology. We explored the core goals of research, distinguishing between basic and applied approaches, and discussed their respective pros and cons. We also mapped out key steps involved in the research process, providing this guideline or map for conducting meaningful and impactful research. And finally, we emphasized the importance of using the scientific method as our guiding principle, ensuring objectivity, confirmation of findings, self-correction, and control in our pursuit for knowledge. Be sure to check out section 2 as we discuss types of research methods used in social psychological research.